So, I'm handling a really sensitive topic today. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most controversial opinions I've ever expressed on social media. And I just have to acknowledge that there are many people who disagree with me on this. But I've lived in both Texas and Oklahoma, so I do feel that I'm speaking with some authority on this topic. And I'm not originally from either state, so I also believe that I'm pretty objective about it. And this video is not to say that Texas is bad. It's just, I really, truly, deeply believe that Oklahoma is better. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why. So number 1, let's talk about panhandles. I actually think that the Texas Panhandle is Texas's most redeeming region. Bear in mind, I've never been to Big Bend or seen the mountains in westernmost Texas, and so I'm subject to change my mind on that once I've been to those places. But the Texas Panhandle is actually the part of Texas that reminds me the most of Oklahoma. Um, Still, I would take US 412 through the Oklahoma Panhandle over I-40 through the Texas Panhandle any day of the week. I think there's just more to see along US 412 in Oklahoma in terms of small towns, old buildings, wildlife, and all that good stuff than there is on I-40. As a bonus on that one, when you're going into New Mexico, it's not off of US 412, but if you get onto Oklahoma 325 from US 412 and you're going into New Mexico, like that area of Cimarron County, it is absolutely stunning, and so much more so than going into New Mexico on I-40. Not that there's a wrong way to go to New Mexico, but if you've never seen Oklahoma, like right there next to New Mexico off of Oklahoma 325, you got to go see it. Must see. Number 2, you can't really get lost in Oklahoma. At least I never did. So you have I-35 that runs north-south, you have I-40 that runs east-west, and then you have I-44, which kind of runs diagonally across the state. So if you happen to be out on a state highway or a back road and you're just not exactly sure where you are, chances are if you keep going in any given direction, you're going to run into something and get where you're going. You can get familiar, get to a familiar place pretty quickly. But Texas is so massive that it's harder to run into something that it's going to take you longer. And so to me, at least, it's easier to feel lost on Texas state highways or Texas back roads because when I'm not really sure where I am, because I'm not sure when I'm going to run into something that I know. So if you're not taking the interstates in Texas, it's easy to feel lost, I think. And I think if you are taking interstates and you're giving up that backroads beauty that you get, like where you can see the small towns, you can see the backroads, wildlife and the old buildings and just all of that stuff that you don't necessarily get on the interstate. You can't explore as well on the interstate. So, all right, number 3. Speaking of that, a similar train of thought, it's easier to get out into the middle of nowhere in Oklahoma. You don't have to really go far in any direction from any given city to be out in the middle of nowhere, to have those wide open spaces, those peaceful, quiet spaces. In Texas, there are so many sprawling metropolises, Like we talk about the Dallas-Fort Worth area, like that's composed of so many cities, you know what I'm saying? And they all just kind of reach out and touch each other, and like it feels like they almost overlap when you're driving. So you have to go further, and it takes a lot longer to leave the city behind here in Texas than it does in Oklahoma. And that brings me to number 4, which is traffic, because traffic absolutely contributes to it taking longer to get anywhere, right? Traffic is far less congested in Oklahoma than it is in Texas, and that's as much as I'm going to say about that because I think it speaks for itself. Number 5, Oklahoma has some larger cities. Oklahoma City is where I lived. And then there's Tulsa, which is fairly large as well. And I can't speak much to Tulsa because I didn't live there, but Oklahoma, being a fairly large city, still has very much a small town community vibe. Like everybody knows everybody. It's like you don't really live in Oklahoma City, you're a part of Oklahoma City. I just miss Oklahoma. But besides those 5 reasons, listen, Oklahoma has the Wichitas, the Arbuckles, the Washitas, Natural Falls, Osage Hills, Great Salt Plains, Gloss Mountains, and Black Mesa, among many other things. It's a really diverse state. And I know Texas is a diverse state as well, geologically speaking. But I think Oklahoma, like for all of the reasons I mentioned, it's just a lot more accessible. It's a lot easier to get to those geologically diverse areas. So that is my unpopular opinion for the week. I did have 2 far more serious topics that I was going to talk about, but they're just not quite ready. So I will be back with those in the next couple of weeks. I love y'all. Have a great week.